Hello everyone, welcome to a DCS World video, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the OH6A, the Cayuse, also known as the Little Bird, or the Loach. So it's a light attack helicopter. As you can see on the screen, we've got some startup instructions. It does come with tutorial, and you will soon learn the startup, because the first couple of times you fly this little helicopter, it'll take a little bit of getting used to, and there might be a few prangs. Certainly for our squadron, we're looking at it, adding it to some of our main servers, and there's a mission been set up with a whole lot of these little birds set out in a row, and yeah, it's quite interesting watching people get to grips with it for the first time. It is very stable so far, and we're hoping that we can get this added to our server. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a talk through it, a bit of a review, and hopefully in the background there's a few instructions so that you can learn some lessons that I may miss as I go through my general discussion. So looking inside the helicopter, obviously the internals look fantastic. So there's a lot of work been done on this. It is a very beautiful mod. It's about 3.5 gig download. It is standalone, so you don't need any FC3 or anything else, and it does come with a Vietnam assets pack alongside the helicopter. So we'll talk you a little bit through the takeoff in a couple of seconds. One of the things to be aware of is that as a light helicopter, it responds pretty quickly to its controls, and probably the main thing to watch is the rudder as you're getting this thing up to speed. So here you can see we're doing our takeoff. The Black Hawk, for example, which is another free mod, which is also excellent and worth getting. What I find is that the best thing to do is to be relatively authoritative on the collective and get it off the ground and just get that sort of confident lift. Whereas with this, if you do that, because it's so light, you'll find that the sudden increase in collective will generate a lot of torque that will end up with you seesawing backwards and forwards. So really that's the thing that I think to most watch, is to get some good curves on your controls so that you're not overcorrecting. My first flights were quite a lot of rocking around backwards and forwards, and what I found is that I was seesawing with the pedals. Pedals are very sensitive, and it doesn't take to high fast rotations. But once you're in level flight, and here you can see we're in level flight heading towards Gudata, actually it's quite comfortable to fly. I think I do put a little bit of pedal on at times. We find that we get around about 80 knots comfortably out of it. I've pushed it up to 100 knots. I haven't pushed it beyond that, and that's probably because yeah, we haven't spent enough time in it. But the flights are comfortable, as you can see I'm saying on the screen. It is a full-time job once you're in the air. It's not like the Huey, which has a nice little autopilot, or even the MI8, where either you can use the autopilot or even use the forced trim. If you're traveling at a reasonable speed, not too fast, not too slow, the trim will actually carry the helicopter through. Here, it's all you and the helicopter. Yeah, what I've found is that I can do other things if I hold the stick in place and I've got a reasonable amount of speed. I have on occasion let go of the stick, but not for extended periods of time, because it does tend to drift a little bit. But yeah, once you're up and running and get at speed, it's okay. It's when you need to use the rudder pedals that you'll find that this thing will become a little bit more of a challenge. And once you get used to that, like everything, Shafts, who is one of the guys who I joined here, he's actually got to the stage where he's starting to do spot landings, landing on buildings, stuff like that, and he's finding it pretty comfortable. And although I do have the odd turtle landing where I come in, and if you have too much horizontal speed, what you'll find is one of the skids will touch and the thing will just roll over and it will flip, right? You don't, unlike the Gazelle or the Huey or the MI8, you don't end up on your side, you end up on your back. And that's with forward speed as well. With the Huey, you can slam it down and let the skids sort of coast it to a halt, even on grass, and particularly on hard surfaces. But for the little bird here, you really just get it into a hover and then slowly bring it down. dynamic rollover, where basically something touches the ground and the helicopter pivots around that point, is the #1 enemy of this helicopter. Right, on to armaments. So for the first thing, in order to rearm, you need to have the engine off and the doors open. So I'm going to turn the engine off by simply using the page down key to bring the throttle down, and then it's going to cut off the fuel. A bit dodgy. I'm sure there's a formal cut-off shutdown procedure, but I just took the fastest and most expedient way. I reset all the switches to default. So the magnetic gyro, the inverter, the generator, as well as the battery. I think there was one step I missed, because when I started up, the throttle was already in idle, so the rotor started turning as soon as I hit the starter. But anyway, here we are. We let the helicopter wind down. I did look around for a rotor brake, couldn't find one, and that could be because it doesn't have one, or I don't know where to find it. Control C opens the doors. I recommend for our squadron that you change it to Shift C, because if you copy anything, suddenly you find your doors are open. Not so bad in this little helicopter, but a bit rough if you're in something like a jet. If you're in a MiG-15 or MiG-21 and flying at high speed and you copy something, yeah, it can be a bit dodgy. But anyway, so there we go, rotor stop, doors are open. So what I find is that as soon as the crew chief says copy, then you can just initiate the startup procedure. I think I took my time here. And they will happily kit out the helicopter. So in order for the rearmament request to be accepted, then yeah, your helicopter needs to be stopped with the engine stopped and the doors open. So there are quite a lot of armament options. I think the rockets may be fictional, or at least I think that's what they say in the release notes or in the training tutorial. So you can have a minigun mounted to the right side. It's not a very powerful minigun, so you wear away at the enemy. The rockets, they're pretty accurate, but I think they're fairly small as well, so good against. This is basically effective or mildly effective against infantry. Mainly it's effective against infantry, and you'll see that I have some comments about this later on, is because the damage model probably still needs some more work, and this thing can tank hits like a hind. So you can fly around at low level with enemy firing at you, and you don't have an issue. Probably next test to do, and I'll need a volunteer from the squadron, or it might be me, is for someone to shoot tank shells at it, to see if high explosive tank shell or potentially maybe a surface to air missile or something is capable of taking it down, because we've found that really all the crashes are self-inflicted. They're not caused by enemy action, or at least so far, and that's fine. It's a free mod. It's entirely it's beautifully presented. It's got beautiful flight model once you get used to it. It is challenging, but that's fine. That's the helicopter. Beautiful externals, got a lot of options. It's got an AI door gunner who on our particular mission didn't seem to work, but seemed to work in the replay, so we'll have to try it on some different missions and just see if there's something wrong with our mission. So yeah, you get a whole lot of things there for, yeah, well, basically for free. It's fantastic. And its place in the game really should be with observation. Now, observation helicopters aren't used in the game very much. They're not particularly useful in a lot of our missions. And you can see there I'm doing a bit of a seesaw takeoff. That's where you get a bit of rudder oscillation, and you're just trying to sort of keep things steady until you get a bit of flight, and then let the slipstream sort of hold the helicopter steady. So it's a bit of a rougher takeoff than my normal ones. But more like the ones that I used to do. But anyway, I was talking about observation helicopters. So in DCS, observation is important, but because you've got things like the F2, F5, F9, F8, whatever keys, you can be in a jet and actually sort of like have a camera like a television show. You can look at the bad guys pretty close up. With all that stuff shut down, it may actually be that observation helicopters and observation aircraft like the Bronco are a little bit more useful. DCS spotting is quite hard. You get some smoke. I wouldn't advocate trying to drop smoke on an enemy position, but you could, for example, drop smoke on a known point for, let's say, a mirage to reset his INS on, or to give relative positions, so dropping a smoke and then saying, 1 nautical mile northeast or 1 nautical mile at 30 degrees from the position of the smoke. I'm not sure how they do it in real life, but I'm pretty sure they don't fly over concentrations of enemy troop and drop the appropriate colour smoke. As mentioned there, we couldn't get the door gunner working in the AI mission, and the AI working in the real mission when I was flying. But when I did the replay, the door gunner quite happily opened up. Now, of course, in the replay, the troops on the ground didn't die, so he spends a lot of ammunition shooting at one guy who basically tanks the whole lot. Probably better than this helicopter can tank the return fire. So yeah, it is good. It's not a combat aircraft, and I think that's one of the things with DCS is that it's with helicopters, it's opening up different roles. So the Mi-8, for example, does get some rockets, and you can put some door gunners in it and stuff like that. But really, it's a logistics helicopter. It's it's not a gunship like the Hind is a gunship, the Apache's a gunship, obviously. But you're getting logistics helicopters, and with the Gazelle and now with this little the Loach here, the Cayuse, you're also getting the opportunity for observation helicopters. But the way that the game, the settings in the game are structured, often observation isn't so much required, and particularly if people are particularly good with T-pods and stuff like that, you find that they can sort of self-observe. But anyway, it's one of the things that we will try out, see if we can get better at it, or find a place in the game for this. It's not logistics, it can carry a couple of people, which on some of our missions I think counts as an engineering squad. Or potentially we should probably try and put maybe a JTAC, but unfortunately in Combined Arms you can't take control of a single individual unless it's I think the smallest unit you can take control of is the manpads, like the Stinger or the Igla. So yeah, it's going to have to try and work its way into the game, which we're pretty determined to do. I think within the squadron that we've got, a lot of people are really taken with it, a lot of people really love it. And part of the reason we love it is that it is a bit challenging to fly. So it's definitely the Huey, it's the far end spectrum. The easiest helicopter in DCS, I'm pretty sure, is the Black Hawk, which my 18-year-old daughter has managed to fly around in. The Huey is pretty docile, pretty good, and this is probably at the far end, really difficult and tricky to get on top of. But once you get on top of it, the flight model's predictable, so yeah, it's just a case of pilot familiarity. As you can see, this guy's really chopping away at this single individual, so that's enough of that, and we're going to go in with the HE grenades, and we'll drop out a spool of about 3 or 4 of them, and yeah, I think, did that pass even do it? No, it didn't. So yeah, the grenades are quite fun to drop out. I have taken this thing up to 6,000 feet and dropped grenades out, but obviously there's no accuracy. I think I was using the F10 map at that point, which is definitely not a historical thing. Takes a long time to climb. So in the mountains there around Godada, if you want to do search and rescue in the mountains, could be a challenge. Search and rescue is going to be interesting anyway, because the hovering performance of it is where it's most challenging. So essentially where you need to use the rudder pedals, slow speeds, anything like that, where the rudder pedals come into use is where you'll find that you actually struggle the most with the helicopter. So hovering to pick up a Caesar, for example, I think it's a 20-second hover required on our Caesar missions. Is going to be a real challenge. On the other side of it, if you get really good at it, you may actually find that you can land it in fairly confined spaces. And that's what Shafts is doing. I've tried to land it in a clearing in a forest and lost control. I have landed it on a rooftop. I think I've done a couple of rooftop landings. But yeah, it's still work in progress. So it's only been a couple of days since it's come out, and yeah, a lot more familiarity. So on the verdict, should you get this? I definitely recommend that you get it if you like helicopters. The The Gazelle's obviously a little bit more capable. It is a mod, so a lot of squadrons, a lot of servers don't accept mods of any description. That's fine. So far the stability has been good, and we've had a lot of people try and use it and do a lot of different things. It's a lot of fun to fly. You are going to have to practice at it to get good at it, but I think it's well worth it. And I think it's definitely something that I'll be keeping in my list of mods that I have on my PC. Definitely worth getting. Love flying it, and I will keep persisting until I can actually get that level of confidence in confined spaces that I think it's going to require to make this really shine. Thanks for watching.